Hello friends, welcome to C# Intermediate to Advanced tutorial. Now you are watching part 4 of the subseries C# IComparable interface. In this video, we will implement this form behind code. We will populate the student information in a student class, then we will pack that inside a array list. Then we will make a call to ArrayList.Sort. Now ArrayList knows how to sort because we implemented IComparable interface on the student class, and student class instance is what we are storing inside the ArrayList. So ArrayList know how to sort the student. And if you watched our previous video, we sorted the student class based on the student height. So we picked this field and we wrote our CompareTo method based on this specific field. So let's quickly review the previous 3 parts. In the first part, we learned about the IComparable interface basics. We also talked about the CompareTo method. After that, we talked about the example. In the previous video, we created the student class, and we will create multiple instances of this student class in our form behind code. And when user clicks the add button, an instance will get stored into the array list. So now we are going to write code for this form behind code. So here, if you see, first we declared, or we added the using namespace to state that we are going to use collections classes inside this example. So here we are using array list, right? This array list is inside this system.collection namespace. All right. Here we have a array list, and it is initially null. Then in the constructor, we are creating a new instance for our student list. That means we are initializing it here as null. Then inside the constructor, we are creating a heap and we are giving it to the list student. Next, here is the add button, and we are handling the click event handler for our add button. Remember, here we are creating the array list, but in the add method, that means here we have to type all the content. If you see, no validation is done here, and since it is just a demo, we skipped all the validation, assuming that we will type valid data on these 3 text fields. That means you will type string here, I mean any character here, but on these 2 fields you will type the numbers. So we create student, then we populate the student class members, student name, height, weight, and name we are taking it from here, text, then txt height.txt, then we are parsing that as integer. Same goes for student weight. After that, since this is an array list, right? LSD list student dot add, and we add our student instance. So if you see here, this student instance implements IComparable, and it also implemented the CompareTo method. Now we are adding instances of this student. If you click add method 3 or more times, then the array list will grow by holding the multiple instances of the student class. Later, when you make a call for sort, then it will make use of our CompareTo method. Our CompareTo method, in the sense, the CompareTo method which we wrote for the student class by implementing the IComparable interface. All right, next. Here, if you see, we wrote a function private void show students list box students so this is our list box students dot items dot clear. Items will give the collection of entries in this list box. Then we are clearing it. Then we make use of our list student, which is nothing but our array list, which get populated each time user click the add button. So, and if you see, this is a data member. That's why here we can access it freely, and we are forming a for each loop. List student, we know each cell will store a student instance, and here we are forming the for each loop. For each student in this collection, list student, the collection is nothing but array list. We are iterating it. Then in the list box, we are adding an entry. List box student, this is the 1, 2, control list box items collection dot add, collection method add we are calling. Then here we are forming a student name. Here you can see student name, for example Muthukumar. Then concatenated with these two. After that, height. So 133 is the height here. Then weight. Here comma in between, comma, weight is 81. Likewise, we are iterating each cells. So if there are 4 or 5 cells in the array list, for example here there are 4 cells, on each cell we will be getting this student instance. For each loop we will advance like this, and we are printing the name, height and weight. Next, if you see btn list, click this to right. Here we are handling the click event for the button btn list, and we are simply making call to show students. Why? Because the show students will update this list box. First it clears it, then it will add each item by reading the array list. All right, next, when we make a call to sort, here we are making call to our array list dot sort. The moment you call ArrayList.Sort, no matter in what order user is adding the elements, based on the student height, the elements will get exchanged or arranged by making use of the CompareTo method, which is implemented by the student instance. Here inside we are storing the student instance, st1, st2, st3, for example, student instance, and based on the height the sorting will be performed. And the way we wrote the CompareTo method will sort this student entries so that highest student, I mean the person with the highest height, will come here first, then the next height. After that it will go like this. So the key here is the sort method, and sort method will make use of the CompareTo method of the student class. So who will make use of this CompareTo method? The array list will make use of this CompareTo method, because we are calling sort on the array list. Now array list knows how to sort this user defined type. Here user defined type is the student instance, and since the student itself states how you can compare two object, the array list will make use of the CompareTo, and it compares two object, and based on that it performs the sorting. All right, now this is the quick event for the sort button. Now we will go ahead and implement this as part of the demo. So left click on the form and choose view code. So we need a collection namespace, so we are adding it first. Next we add a collection class to test our CompareTo method. You can use any collection. Here we are using array list. It's a data member of a forum student, and we initialized it as null. Next inside the constructor we create a heap location for this array list. Now we have an empty array. Next we will click on this add button, properties, click event, double clicking it. So as already explained in the slide, if you see here, we are creating a new instance of a student. New instance of a student. We already know that we have 3 private member and 3 public property to read and write these private values. Then we have a CompareTo method, which is implemented by the IComparable interface. You can see this denotes the interface, and CompareTo method is part of this IComparable, and we implemented that. In the previous video we did that. All right, here we populated a student class. That means we populated this student class. After that we added that student class to our array list. Next we go for view class diagram. So here we picked a student. Let's expand it. So here we are adding a new method, and we will name the method as show students. Click on that show student. It returns return type is void, and modifier is public. That's okay. If you want to add some summary information, you can do that. Now I'll double click, or I will double click here, and let's delete this. The show students method will iterate through the list. All right, it should not be here. We should access our forum student. Here we can add that method. So now we can delete it. So as we already saw in the PowerPoint slide, first we are clearing the list item. Then we form a for each loop, and inside the for each loop we populate the list box. So this is the list box, right? We populate that list box with the content of the array list. Now we will go here. There are two class diagrams. We can delete these. List, double click to handle the click event. Here we will iterate through the list just by calling the show student, and we will display that in the list box. So now we can test this to see the contents are populated or not. So I'm arbitrarily giving some number, height, weight 67. So once you click list here, it will show. Now we will add two more. So add and list is working. Now we can go ahead with sort. So here is our array list, ls list student. List student dot. So this time we are making call to the sort method of the array list. All right, sort. So after sorting the array list, we will simply make a call to show students. So we have to run this once again. So now we have array list, and if I click list, you can see all the height, and it is not in a sorted order. If you see, judged is the highest person. The next, even Anand Kumar Bakshi is the highest person. Next, judged red, and Morgan Marshall. After that, Jenny Lane, and finally comes Balaraman. So now here we are performing the sort, and after the sort, if you see, our array list knows how to sort its elements. Its elements are instance of students, and students class implements IComparable. Because of IComparable interface implementation, it implemented CompareTo method. Inside the CompareTo method, the logic goes based on the height. When we compare this dot height with the obj dot height, we returned -1 when this dot height is more than the obj. That means we asked to keep highest person towards the left, or we can say towards the 0th index of the array. Simply we sorted in descending order of height. So you can change the CompareTo logic, and your array list will behave based on that CompareTo logic. So the way how student class asks to sort, the same way the collection class, it can be array list or linked list or whatever is the collection class, If the collection class supports the sort method, the collection class will make use of CompareTo, and how CompareTo method is asking to sort. That way the collection class will sort the containing elements. All right, this concludes our demo. Thank you for watching. Bye.